Hey everyone, and welcome back to UX Design to Win in Business. My name is Nils. I'm co-founder at Dingy Studio, and this is our last episode of the year. We had an absolutely massive year, 2024, with a whole bunch of new projects, I think with paradigm shifting realizations and also shifts in how user experience works in general. I think everybody is experiencing how the way we interact with the web, with the internet, and with digital products in general is changing. And we're here to talk about that for a little bit. We also want to share some wins that we were able to pull off through this year, how we actually helped businesses through user experience design to be more profitable, to win in their respective business. And we also want to look a little bit into the future, what we think is going to happen in 2025 with respect to user experience design and its impact on your business. So with the almost second birthday of ChatGPT, the AI revolution is everywhere. It's a non-stop topic. I think this is probably such a tectonic shift as almost the invention of the internet itself. We're seeing features being integrated left and right into all of the products that we use. Like even the major tech companies like Microsoft and Apple are integrating features into every aspect of their software. If this is actually helpful or not, that is something we can still discuss, but I think it's absolutely clear to everyone that AI is just it came to stay. And even though we're still interacting with AI through chat interfaces a lot, we also see AI features being integrated more deeply into software with the time that passes. And at Dingy, we believe that AI is not going to stay in this realm of being your smart assistant. Currently, user interfaces are sort of hard-coded. To pick up an expression by Rob Phillips, who I talked to on this podcast before, and I think his outlook on how user interfaces are going to be shaped is that hyper-personalization is what we can expect content-wise, but even user interface-wise. So imagine your digital service or app doesn't look the same for everyone, but that all of your users can train your product to interact with them the way that they actually needed to do so, which is very exciting, I think, because everybody uses the same software and some people are more successful, some people are less successful. For some people, it really matches their use case. For others, it actually doesn't really. And this is something that we've seen to start happening very slightly in 2024. And we can talk about it a little bit later in this episode, but that's something that will only increase, I think. To the next topic of accessibility and inclusivity. This is a topic that's being discussed more and more and more over the past years. With the European Accessibility Act, we finally even see that, Europe is making an advance in making WCAG compliant designs a thing for everyone to be mandatory. This is something that the web community is passionate about for many years. It's a topic that is always an afterthought in design and is finally becoming like a first-class citizen, I would say. Another thing to think about, this also unlocks like a huge new market potential for customers with disabilities who were just not able to access your product before. So this is also something that we were watching closely, that we were actually making new productized services around. that you can expect for us to offer in 2025. Another topic that was, I think, very popular this year was geared around minimalism and functionality in general. A clear, streamlined interfaces prioritize usability over aesthetics. Also a trend that has been sort of ramping up instead of just jumping out of the ground. But especially with AI being like this universal interface to interact with computers, the user interface and the design of the user interface just started to go back in importance a little bit. Like to take, I don't want to say the second row, it's of course still one of the big things to design and to get right and to actually make sure that your users find the appropriate ways through your app to be successful with whatever they're here to do. But still, minimalism and functionality are the topics that we were focusing on during this year. The users just expect fast, intuitive interactions. Clean designs are just becoming the norm. In the same direction as maybe accessibility, with the rise of AI, I think we also started a whole parallel discussion or put more emphasis on topics like ethical user experience design and data privacy, because all of those topics were also discussed over the last 10 years in so many different ways. Ethical user experience design in this sense means that we don't want to try to trick users into clicking on something anymore. We want to be transparent with why this product exists, why it's here, what we're here to help you with, and to actually turn our users into not only users, but super fans of the platform. And that means to look at your users a lot more like a close friend than just anyone. Because with a close friendship, with a close personal relation between two people, it's absolutely also important to be as transparent with everything in your communication as even possible, because this builds trust. And trust is the paramount thing to have in the relationship with your customers, because onboarding of new customers, especially in this age where we have a plethora of different applications. So if you want customers to come onto your platform and stay, then you have to build a trustworthy relationship with them. So we can see these trends highlight the increasing demand for purposeful, user-focused design that balances innovation with usability. Because I think also one thing got super clear to me this year. Everybody is racing to integrate artificial intelligence into their features one way or the other. We also spoke with a lot of users of different digital products this year. And I think it's safe to say that in this, a big consideration should also be that people need safety. People need to feel safe with the product that they're using and need to feel the confidence in the product in that way that it will actually do what they intended to do when opening this app. What I want to say with this is there was a lot of progress with different user experience design principles this year, but we have to make sure that we're not outpacing our users. As we talked about before, the trust in your relationship with your customers is very, very important. I think sometimes, especially the bigger tech companies, they tend to oversee how much change in a period of time their users can handle, and how much they actually understand why this change was introduced into the product that they're using every day. So, for example, when you're on Microsoft's platform, the Edge browser now, the Copilot feature, your AI assistant, is just always present in Edge. Like you can always interact with it, but it's also very hard to not use it. So it's almost like it's trying to nudge you into using AI, which might be the strategy or the idea for the product. But on the other hand, we got to leave people a choice. And especially, we got to leave some room for onboarding and getting familiar with the feature. And I think this is something that going into 2025 will receive much more focus than it did this year and also last year. Coming out of the reflection from this year, I also want to highlight a couple of projects that we worked on that were very successful in the sense of this podcast. So, traditionally, we worked on many projects, basically designing the user interface, programming the front end, interacting with the back end, doing all of the technical things. And our focus as an agency shifted much more towards designing the actual user experience rather than the visual appeal of an app generally. But this didn't happen only because we decided to do so. This also happened because we felt that only this way we can create meaningful features and a meaningful interaction of customers with your digital platform. And so to highlight a couple of projects that we worked on this year, with outcomes in numbers, to not only fall into design jargon. So one of our big customers in the area of business consulting redesigned their careers website. Before, the careers website was on a different domain than their main website. So they basically had two different websites. We integrated the careers part of the website into the main website because we wanted to cross-link the available information in both websites a lot more than we were able to do in the approach with the two different websites. And we've seen that by doing this and by focusing on the individual customer groups inside of the careers part of the website, we could absolutely increase the number of applications. We increased the click-through rate from job portals and websites where they were advertising their open positions, which is really a testament to how much can be accomplished by putting yourself in the shoes of your customers. Another example is the redesign of a website for our partner agency, Pay Studios, which needed to become much more minimal in the sense of the trend this year. So they were also looking for a streamlined, more minimal, simplistic design that, especially with a focus on fluid and responsive design, needed to become very, very easy to use and to browse for their website visitors. Like, they obviously wanted to also surface the projects that they worked on to make it easy for new customers to experience their work. They relaunched the website during autumn, and I think it's safe to say that this was really a massive relaunch for Pay Studios. They were thrilled with the outcome. The content that they're putting in as an agency working in motion design is absolutely mind-blowing. And I think the canvas that it's being presented in now is this very elegant and fluid website design that I think was very well received by their customers. And now, turning more into a more specific product that we've been developing over the last years and really started to gain some traction with this year is our product of the UX audit. We had, I think, at least 5 projects this year that all started with a UX audit. So maybe just really in a nutshell, a UX audit is a structured process where we look at your existing digital platform and audit the whole thing in different categories. So user experience, technical implementation, visual design, interaction, all these sorts of things, and give you a prioritized list of actions that you can take immediately that don't take too much effort to implement, which will have a positive outcome on your user experience. And this in itself is always very useful for our customers, but it's also a conversation starter in how user experience design in a deliberate fashion really does have an impact on your digital platform and on whatever KPI you're thinking in. So if it's a website, if it's an e-commerce platform or something, I'm sure conversion rate in one or the other way is the KPI that you're tracking. If it's an app, then maybe engagement or total usage time, or actually the quickest usage time, because maybe it's an app where you need something quickly and then are enabled to do whatever your job is to only come back a day later. So it's really individual what your KPI is. But we've seen that through a UX audit, we could work with our customers and really show the potential that deliberate UX design has on your business. And so that was the same with Minatown, a Bulgarian company. So they draw comics to transport your business culture to your entire team, for example. So they draw custom comics. They're in the process of building a museum to talk about local culture and to share that with visitors. And they're looking to even turn this into a franchise, which I think is super cool. So we did a UX audit with them on a very specific website for one of the biggest chemical manufacturers in the world. We did a UX audit for a local electric power and gas supplier and their checkout process. And all of these have in common that mobile first design, the usage of forms, so entering data for customers, messaging, consistent visual design, all of these things, like the whole product can appear to actually be very modern, very well designed, and all of that on the surface. And as soon as you put yourself in the shoes of your customer and browse the website on a real phone, interact with it the same way they would do in an actual buying scenario, then you immediately start to see the improvement points. And all of the customers, big and small this year, after completing our UX audit, we were into discussions about ongoing collaborations. And so again, this is really not for me to brag, but this is, I think, a testimony to how a practice that, for example, in collaboration with SEO agencies has been established since many years and is a testimony to how continuously improving your user experience is something that immediately has impact on your business success. So we are going to double down on our UX audit product. We're going to offer a few more retainers next year. So if you're looking to work together with us in some form or capacity to improve your user experience, hurry up because the seats are actually very, very limited. This was just also a very interesting learning for us. I mean, our background is user experience. We're all front-end developers, designers, UX researchers, all of this. But this year really was the year where all of that stuff came together and we could make the most impact since the existence of Dingy, which is something that I'm very, very proud of. Looking into 2025, we already talked about it a little bit in the reflection of 2024. So I think it's safe to say that AI, any sort of artificial intelligence, or even handling data in a smart way, even data-driven design, is going to be a focus next year and the years to come. I said it many times on this podcast, and I'm not growing tired to say it again. The way we see it at Dingy is that we had the last 10 years of internet and now we're at the turning point into the next century. It's just like there's so many paradigms being cracked open that used to be set in stone for the last 10 years. And now the way that we're going to build software is just going to change. Expect more AI-driven tools to simplify the design process while also improving outcomes. Proactive user experiences are also something that I already mentioned, started to come to existence this year, and I think are just going to be much more important next year and the years to follow. And what I mean with that is, at the moment, apps and websites and digital experiences in general are more often than not sort of the same for everyone. Like, we've seen personalization in content, so that, for example, your landing page shows a different headline for one user than it does for another user. But this will be taken a step further. It's this time not only the content that will adapt to your user's preferences, but it will be the entire user interface. Like, we'll see this more and more. I already mentioned Rob Phillips that I talked before on the show here. He's an absolute trailblazer in this direction, and we will have many conversations with him and other interesting partners next year to research how user experience and user experience design is going to evolve and change through those AI-driven technologies. Because now, let's be frank, we can just do stuff that we weren't able to do before. I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who put it into very nice words. Even with user interfaces, compared to only command line interfaces like 30 years ago, computers were always sort of this binary thing. If you think about how people interact with computers, then even if you're moving windows around on your computer, there can always only be one that is in front, the one that you're acting with. So a window is either in front or it's in the back. Something is active or it's not. Something is working or it's not. You can do something or you can't. So it's always sort of binary. And with the rise of generative AIs, this paradigm shifted. And I think this is one of the most fundamental shifts that will enable a whole new era of user experiences. Because now the computer is not only binary anymore. It's not okay or error, but it's anything in between. Like, it can be 2/3 of what you would actually be looking for. You can have discussions, it can give reasoning, and all of those things are going to translate into how your digital product will be designed in the future. We've also seen a lot of interfaces where you speak with your phone, like things that we always wanted with Siri, I guess, but that never really felt natural because it was just really not smart enough. And now it really is. Like, if you maybe already played with the new voice interface in the ChatGPT mobile app, mind-blowing technology, I think. It really feels like you're having a conversation with your assistant that is available 24/7 and can remember everything that you said. So this is going to be crazy. And also, as we talked about before, going forward, the ethical principles of your product's design are going to be absolutely one of the most important pillars to work on. It has to be usable. It has to do what people want. All of that given, sure, very important. But it also needs to incur trust in your users. Otherwise, they will churn, go away, and do something else. So cybersecurity, ethical design principles, responsible usage of only the data that you really need, being transparent about your business principles and what you're doing with that data, all of that stuff is not a nice to have anymore. This is going to be a make or break situation for your digital product. And I think it's a challenging thing because, first of all, we can also see lawmakers increasing the speed and kind of catching up with the race that has always traditionally been that way, that the digital industry was kind of dashing ahead and lawmakers were kind of trying to catch up all the time. But now I think with the new laws coming through, the Artificial Intelligence Act in Europe, same as the Accessibility Act, with GDPR since a couple of years, all of these are clear signs that not only users are emphasizing that these topics are very important to them, but also countries and lawmakers in general are catching up to the industry. And thus, the crazy cowboy land that we had the last 10 years on the internet is going to be a thing of the past. I think the internet is now old enough, all of the technologies, we're getting into the same sort of regulations that traditional industries had to deal with as well. And so going forward, we will, as makers of digital products, we will have to combine user research, user experience design, compliance to different sorts of regulations, cybersecurity, ethical design principles, all of that sort of stuff needs to work hand in hand for your product to be successful. And we as Dingy Studio are keeping a close eye on all of these. We're working with experts in law, cybersecurity, copywriting, in all of the different areas, because we know already that only when you combine all of these disciplines, all of them together, that only then you will be able to be successful with your digital product, which is, of course, what we want for everyone out there daring to venture into such a complicated thing to do than to build a digital product of any kind. So the future of UX lies in blending cutting-edge technology with human-centered approach, driving both satisfaction and business success. And with this, I want to wish everyone a very, very merry holiday season. Let's keep it at that. A great new year. We'll be back in the beginning of January. And we hope that 2025 will be even better than 2024. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.